DreAllDay.com.
And tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is a go-getter energy that moves all of us. And you know what I'm talking about. This is the energy that moves you to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all of this together into one framework, one philosophy. We created an entire codified system for you to understand this and apply it in your life and whatever it is that you do. Wrote a book on the subject. We have a university, and you're listening to the daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is part 2 of 3. Why you can't sell to save your life. Why are you failing to sell to sell. You know what the sell is. It's to create an exchange. You get something, they get something. You're able to get someone to buy into whatever it is you're offering the same way that you have bought into it. Why are you failing to do this? Today we're on part 2 of 3, so we are picking up. Yesterday we did parts 1 through 5, so today we're picking up right at point number 6. No need for any more introduction. Let's get right to it. Number 6. Again, why you can't sell to save your life. You sound just like everyone else. Whatever it is that you're offering or whatever you're putting out there, verbally or non-verbally, looks too much like everything else, and this is another way that you become a commodity. If other people are copying you, or you and others are all offering a similar thing, and you can't differentiate yourself, you become a commodity. Or when everybody is trying to differentiate or talking about themselves, but everybody's kind of saying the same thing, then you're a commodity. When I talk to athletes, I gave you this example yesterday, and athletes talk to me and they say, well, Dre, I work really hard and I really want it, but I'm not getting the opportunity. I tell them this is something that I'm not the first athlete to have said this, I'm sure, and I definitely won't be the last one to say it. I talked about it in my book, Work on Your Game. I talk about it on the show all the time. Hard work is not enough. I did a whole master class on this. You can get it at hardworkaintenough.com. You got to do more than work hard to become a success in anything that you're doing, especially when you get closer and closer to the professional level, because everybody works hard. Everybody wants it, or at least they say they want it. Everybody says that they're going to work hard, and a lot of people actually do work hard. So what else do you got? Because if you just sound like everybody else saying that, then what do I need to listen to you for? To get people's attention these days, you can't simply ask for their attention. You have to take it. You can't just ask for attention. You have to take it. Everyone is distracted these days. If they're not distracted, they're focused on something that they care about, which usually is not what you want them to care about. So you have to disturb people. You have to shake them out of whatever they're doing by offering a pattern interrupt. So you have to interrupt their pattern, and their pattern usually has nothing to do with paying attention to anything that you got going on. So to get them to pay attention to what you're doing, that's the only way you can sell to them. You usually can't sell to somebody if you don't have their attention. You have to disturb their pattern. You have to be able to shake things up and break them out of the monotony of what they're doing. You got to get in their way. All right, whatever they were planning on doing, you got to get in the way of that. Remember, I was talking to an entrepreneur once, and they were talking about doing cold calls, and they said something like they wanted to start doing cold calls, and I was telling them, all right, well then, you can call them during the day while they're at work. You got their office number, call them. And they said, well, I don't want to interrupt them while they're at work. And I said, okay, so then you can call them in the evening when they probably are off work. And they said, well, I don't want to interrupt them while they're at home. They might be spending time with their family. And I said, well, the only other thing that they might be doing is sleeping. So how are you going to get in touch with this person? And this is the whole point that I'm making here, is that to interrupt people, you need to break through with whatever they normally have going on. If what they normally do is go left, you got to interrupt them when they're going left and try to get them to go right. You got to interrupt their pattern of whatever they have going on, because in case you didn't know, I'll make sure I say this explicitly. If you don't interrupt people's patterns of what they're already doing, they will not voluntarily, on their own volition, find their way towards whatever you are doing. And if that does happen, consider yourself lucky, but that is not a strategy. It's hoping that people somehow, some way find their way to what you have going on. You must disturb them and get them to pay attention to what you're doing, which means you got to be very confident in what you're offering. You got to know what you're offering. You got to be clear about what you're offering. You got to make sure there's a clear difference between what you offer and what anybody else is offering. And then you got to be willing to disturb them once you do it. So once you disturb them, you got something to offer that they're like, oh, okay, I get it. I see what you're doing here. Now, being willing, part of this is being willing to be proactive, attention grabbing, and bold. To take somebody's attention, to take somebody's focus, you got to be bold about it. Now, when you do this, when you start boldly grabbing people's attention, does this open you to criticism? Could you possibly ruffle somebody's feathers? Could somebody be offended by the way that you grab their attention, or with whatever it is that you're selling or offering, or maybe pissed off because you're selling or offering something that they just didn't want and you didn't know it until you talked to them? Yes, 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 and yes. All of these things can and will happen when you start grabbing people's attention boldly and authentically. This is the price that you pay to get the chance to sell yourself. That's the selling yourself tax. Is that some people are not going to buy. Some people are going to be mad at you for trying to sell to them. Some people are going to attack you for trying to sell to them. Some people are just going to have something negative that they'll come up with. Who knows how we're going to label it? Something negative they'll come up with to say because you were selling yourself. And sometimes you're just going to be selling yourself and nobody's going to buy. This is all part of the game. This is all part of the tax that you pay in order to grab people's attention. But if you don't do this, there's no way you'll ever get anybody's attention. So this is part of the tax you got to pay. It will happen when you grab attention, but if you don't do it, you will never ever grab attention. And if you don't have anybody's attention, it is impossible for you to sell anything. The second aspect of the work on your game system is showing your game. The first step is working on your game, developing your game mentally and tangibly. Second step is showing your game. In order to show your game, sometimes in life, many times, you have to make a sale just to get the opportunity to show what you can do. You don't just get to show what you can do because you believe you can show something. You got to somehow get in the room in order to show what you can do. Any of you who works in acting, I don't care if you're talking TV, sitcoms, commercials, or movies, you can't, it's not always you can just show up to a casting call. Sometimes a casting call is private and only certain people are even invited. And you got to know somebody who knows somebody to even get in the room. Is this true or is this not? In the sports world, sometimes teams have tryouts or they have workouts where they're evaluating players, but they don't let just anybody show up. They have an application and evaluation process, or they don't even do that. They just make phone calls to the people that they trust and say, hey, send us who you have. We're only looking at the players that we want to look at. We're not even giving everybody a chance to be seen. Understand it in life, even though it has become very democratized for us to be able to broadcast and publish ourselves, there are still many areas in life where in order for you to get seen, you still have to make a sale to somebody or something, somehow, some way, in order to even have a chance for people to know what you have going on. And if you're not willing to do this or you are unable to do this, then you will fail at selling yourself. Point number 7. Today's topic is part 2 of 3, why you cannot sell to save your life. Your offer does not fulfill a need. Maybe you have something that's good, you're clear on what it is, you're bold about it, you're putting it out there, but you're not fulfilling a need for people, and therefore they're not getting it because they don't need it. It's cool what you said. I understand everything you said, and you did a good job of pitching it, but I frankly just don't need what you're offering, therefore I'm not buying it. You have something to offer that people don't need, is not going to sell. As a salesperson, your job is in getting the right people to know that your offering is what they want, or even better, what they need. People will buy things that they want. We buy things that we want all the time. And look around wherever you are right now. I'm sure you own a whole lot of things that you don't really need, but you wanted them and you had the resources to get them, so you got them. It's all good. But when you're fulfilling a need, people will come to you to get it. Now, when you're fulfilling a want, you might have to let people know about it. For example, when I'm on social media, sometimes the ads will come up in the feed about maybe some electronic gadget because I bought 1 or 2 in the past. So now they know that I bought 1 or 2 in the past. And now they just show me every ad that they got for any kind of little gadget that comes up. This could be something for a camera, some kind of Bluetooth microphone, something to put on your lens on your iPhone. It gives you a better, you could take better photographs and videos with. All kinds of little tchotchkes pop up. Why is this? Because they see that I'll buy things that I want. I don't need any of those things, but I bought some things that I wanted before. So now they're going to keep trying to sell them to me until there's nothing else to sell. The thing is, they will never run out of things to sell. So, but when you're offering something that people need, they will come get it from you. They'll go hunt you down and come find it because they absolutely need it. When you're fulfilling a need, that's how people come. That's how you get people beating down your door. So, for example, in the year 2020, we had masks that you wear on your face, cleaning products, hand sanitizers, gloves, Zoom accounts. These all existed for a long time, way before 2020. These things existed. There were masks. I remember I would be in the airport, especially traveling internationally, and I would always see Asians. They would have the mask on their face, and it would always look funny to me. I'm like, why are these people walking around with a mask on? And people told me it's because, well, they're sick or they have some kind of cough or maybe they got the flu or something. So they wear the mask to be polite so as not to give their sickness or give their cold to somebody else. And I said, oh, it's so nice of those Asian people to wear those masks on their face. And now, here we are in 2020 and beyond, and who knows how long it's going to last. Now everybody has to have a mask on, at least in many public places. Cleaning products, sanitizers, gloves, Zoom accounts now. Zoom been around. Zoom been out for years. Now everybody has an account. Why? Because all of a sudden everybody needed it. They all existed for a long time, but when the need goes up, then people start buying it. So if you can either create or obtain something that people absolutely need, or you can figure out a way to market and talk about and position what you're offering in such a way that people need it and not even merely want it, but actually need it, then everybody's going to be coming to you. And the biggest problem you're going to have is fulfilling all those demands that people have for what you want. So your problem's not going to be getting people to want it, but actually, or need it rather, but actually fulfilling the demand for people saying that they need more of it. So, and that's a problem that you may have to deal with. It seems like a good problem, but it could become a bad problem if you don't handle it in the right way. Again, that's a future conversation for a future time. Let's move on to point number 8. Today's topic, once again, why you can't sell to save your life. This is part 2 of 3, or volume 2 of 3. Number 8, you do not actually want to make the sale. Yes, you heard me correctly. Now we're going to get into the mental side of the game. Of all these things that we talked about, a lot of this has been tangible, things that you can put on paper, things that you can learn and teach to other people. Now we got to get to the mental/emotional side of making a sale. After all the tactical, practical stuff, this is the emotional aspect of the game. And maybe the reason why you don't want to make the sale is because you don't feel worthy of making a sale. If you made this sale, you will make $1,000, but you never made $1,000 sale before. You don't think you're worthy of $1,000 sale. The biggest sale you made before was $100. Maybe you don't think you're worth the price that you're asking. Well, yeah, I'm asking $1,000, but I'll work with you. I hear people say this sometimes. They tell you what their price is, and then immediately, before you even get a chance to say anything, they tell you that they'll work with you because they're already hedging their bet that you might say no. And it has nothing to do with what you're going to say. It has everything to do with how they feel about themselves and what they're offering. This is the emotional belief, maybe, that you think you're supposed to fail and struggle and things are not supposed to work the way you want them to work. So even when you are selling, you're projecting an energy that pushes the sale away because you're projecting an energy of this is not going to work. I'm not going to make the sale. I don't really believe in what I'm offering. And when you don't believe in what you're offering, newsflash, nobody else is going to believe in it either. And then when you try and fail, and it's not that you're not going to try at all, you're going to try, but you don't believe that it's going to work. So because you're projecting that belief that things are not going to work, and I've told you many times here that the things that you expect in life are what you end up getting. Since you don't believe that it's going to work, that expectation goes out, that reputation or that energy precedes you. It stops you from getting the outcome that you want. So then you try, and then you fail, and that try and failure supplies you something that you can complain and despair about. So you can say, I tried. You can say, I was trying to make it work, Dre, but it's just not working. I tried everything. I tried to make the sale. Nobody's buying it. This gives you something to complain and despair about. Because see, if you did nothing, then somebody could just say, well, you haven't even tried. So what are you talking about? But if you do something and it doesn't work out, now you got plenty of ammunition for complaining and bitching and not getting the things that you want. And this is exactly what you want. This is what you want. This is one of the reasons why you are failing to sell. You can't sell to save your life because you want to feel like you have tried and failed. And therefore you manufacture unconsciously, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, you manufacture the very circumstance that you want, which is trying and failing. You don't feel worthy of making a sale. You don't think you're worth the price that you're asking. You have an emotional belief that you're supposed to fail and struggle, and you find a way. The universe conspires with you when you put this energy out there. You set this intention. The universe conspires with you to make it happen, to find a way for you to try it, fail, struggle, and then bitch, whine, and complain about the fact that you tried, failed, and struggled. Now, I know right now I'm talking to somebody. I'm speaking somebody's language right now. They know that I'm talking directly to them. This is the emotional challenge that you've been having up to this point. Maybe you have, logically speaking, everything in place. You understand exactly all this concept of selling and how to get your stuff out there and how to put it out there. You got all the pieces in place, but the emotional part is holding you back from making that tangible part work. And understand that the reason why when we talk this whole concept of work on your game, the 3-step process to achievement here is developing your game, showing your game, getting paid for your game. The first part of developing your game is understanding the mental side of it. It's the mindset aspect. That's why this show is about discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative. Because the mental tools, when you have the mental elements in place, they unlock the doors to all your tangible skills. And if you don't have the mental elements in place, you still possess the tangible skills, but the doors are locked and you have lost the key. Therefore, you get frustration, you get struggle. You get pain and despair because you know you're capable of doing it, but for whatever reason, it's just not coming out of you. Am I speaking somebody's language right now? You know you can do X, but you're not doing it. because one of these keys you're missing. Discipline, confidence, mental toughness, personal initiative. You haven't developed enough of it to make that key work to open the door. Therefore, you can't put the skill into action. Therefore, you're not getting the result that you want. And then it's just a cycle that just keeps going. But you're listening to the show right now. So we're in the process of breaking that cycle. But this is one of the reasons why people can't sell. They don't want to sell. And therefore, their energy that they put out manufactures the exact circumstances that leads them to this end of trying and failing. And then they just do it over and over again. I know I'm speaking to somebody right now. Point number 9. Today's topic, once again, why you cannot sell to save your life. You do not believe you're worth the price that you're asking, like we just talked about here in point number 8. This is the self-judgment. This is when you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, you don't believe that you are worthy of whatever you would get if you succeeded in making a sale. If you make this sale, the return that you stand to receive is above the unconscious limits that you have put on yourself. So if your unconscious limit is $5, but you're asking for $7, you are going to keep missing this sale. You will keep manufacturing ways to miss the sale simply because you unconsciously, emotionally do not believe you are worth $7. You believe you're only worth $5. So as long as you're charging $7, you will continue to fail. This is why you're falling short on all the other points made above. You find ways to manufacture this failure because what you're asking for is above the level that you're comfortable with. Remember that human beings, all of us, whether you're the salesperson or the prospect, we make decisions emotionally and unconsciously, and then we come up with logical words and reasoning to make sense of our decisions and to communicate those decisions to other people. Understand that the communication, when people are communicating logically, or the tangible communication, like the words that people are saying to logically defend the decision that we made, most of it's bullshit. Our logical explanations of our decisions are often very different from the real emotional reasons that we actually made a decision. And sometimes we know the real emotional reasons, we're not willing to say it. And sometimes we don't even know the real emotional reasons, so we come up with a logical explanation and we convince ourselves that that logical explanation is the real reason why we did something. And it is absolutely not. It's complete bullshit. So next time somebody makes a decision and they give you some logical explanation that sounds perfect, is perfectly wrapped up in a bow, why they did what they did, understand that they are not giving you the real reason. The real reason people do things, and this includes you, this includes me and everyone else out there, is emotionally based. Now again, maybe we can't explain that emotional base behind our reasoning. And maybe sometimes other people will think that they can read another person's mind and explain their emotional reason for doing what they're doing. Oftentimes they're wrong. You see a lot of this on the internet these days. If you can't explain it, you don't quite understand the emotional reasons behind your actions, then maybe you'll never quite understand why you do what you do. From what I understand, this is why people go to therapy. They can learn what these things are that can uncover these emotional reasons that they make, the decisions that they make. But understand that when someone gives you a logical explanation for why they did what they did, maybe part of it is that logical explanation, but that's not all of it. Guaranteed is not all of it. The communication part, again, the logical explanation communication part is bullshit. It's the emotional communication that we have with ourselves that drives our decisions. We often make decisions much faster than we actually end up making them in real life. We make decisions pretty quickly emotionally. We know if we're going to say yes or no. We know if we're going to move forward or not move forward, but we take our time and actually tangibly put the decision into real life. You know why? Because during the time between when we make the decision, whether we're going to say yes or no, which happens in like 2 minutes, and the time that we actually say yes or no, which might take 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, what we're doing is coming up with a logical explanation for why we made that decision. So when someone asks us, we can explain it. But if all we were doing was going off emotions, we would make the decision in 2 minutes. But we stretch it out so we can come up with a logical reasoning to explain it. And the longer we take, it's just the longer that it takes us to craft that logical explanation. So somebody who's really good at coming up with logical explanations, they can make a decision in 2 minutes and then take action in 5 minutes, because it only took them 3 minutes to come up with the logical explanation for their decision. And their logical explanation could be because that's just what I wanted to do and I don't need to explain it to anybody. Some people use that. But this is the difference. This is the gap between the emotional decision that we make, which for all of us is very quick, and the logical explanation of our decision and the tangible application of that decision, which could take forever. You might never make a decision. You might never do anything. You ever had anybody you asked them to make a decision on something and you never heard from them again, or they never brought it up again? because they were so uncomfortable with whatever logical explanation they could come up with or they failed to come up with that they just decided to abdicate from making a decision in the first place. When your energy is of not believing that you're worthy, though your logical conscious talk may all sound correct, your unconscious emotional energy will push away the results from you. Meaning you can have all the logical tools in place. This is like the athlete who has all the skills in place to be a great player. But when they emotionally do not believe that they're worthy of being a great player, they'll find ways to sabotage their own success. And understanding emotion overpowers logic any day of the week, any human being. Doesn't matter who it is. The emotional always overpowers the logic. So if you do not emotionally believe in what you're doing, even though you may logically have everything in place perfectly, you will fail. You will manufacture ways to fail. You will come up with novel failure. You will come up with novel tactics and strategies to fail that you didn't even know existed when you emotionally do not believe in the success that you logically appear to be going after. And this is one of the main reasons that people fail to sell in life. It is not because they don't have these tools or that they don't understand the simple logical concepts. If you're listening to this show, you're pretty smart. You can understand the things that I'm saying. You can apply these things, and use them yourself. But when you don't have the emotional part down, like, again, that's why we start with the work on your game system. We start with the mentality. This show every day, we focus on the mental game, because when the mental game is not in the right space, it does not matter what you have tangibly. You will find a way to underutilize it. Let's recap today's class, which is part 2 of 3. Why you cannot sell to save your life. Number 6, you sound just like everyone else. This is another way to become a commodity. If you want people's attention, you have to take it. You take people's attention by interrupting their patterns. Does this mean you may ruffle some feathers, offend somebody, or be criticized? Yes. Are you willing to deal with that? If not, you will not sell. Point number 7, your offer does not fulfill a need. When people want something, they go get it sometimes. But when people need things, they have no choice but to go get it. So masks, cleaning products, sanitizer, gloves, Zoom accounts, those things existed long before 2020, but all of a sudden everybody needed them this year, and those things all sold a whole lot. Why? Because all of a sudden people needed them. If you can come up with a reason or have something that people actually need and not even merely want but need, then they will beat a path to your door for you to fulfill that need. Point number 8, you don't actually want to make the sale. After the tactical, practical stuff, this is the emotional aspect of the game that we talk about in these last 2 points. Maybe you don't feel worthy of it. Maybe you don't think you're worth what you're asking. Maybe you have an emotional belief that you're supposed to fail and struggle. And when you believe in this way, your mind and the universe will conspire to come up with ways for you to fail over and over and over again because your emotion wants it. And point number 9, you don't believe you're worth the price you're asking for. Self-judgment. If you make this sale, the return you stand to receive is above the unconscious limits that you have put on yourself, and understand that no human being can behave in a manner that is out of line with how they see themselves for an extended period of time. So maybe you can make a $7 sale right now that's above your $5 limit, but you will miss so many sales after that that it will equal out to about $5 because you're going to self-sabotage until you get back down to the level that you belong at. It's kind of like the thermostat working. Remember that human beings make decisions emotionally and unconsciously, and then we come up with really smart and really logical words and reasoning to make sense of it, and then we communicate that to other people. That communication that we give, that explanation, that logical shit is all bullshit. Our logical explanations of our decisions are often very different from the real emotional reasons that we make the decisions. Sometimes we can explain those reasons. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we're aware of them. We just don't talk about it. Sometimes we're completely unaware, and then other people think they can read our minds and tell us what it is. Understand that emotion overpowers logic any day of the week. So when you are not getting the results that you want, even though you feel like you logically have everything in place, the challenge is the mental game. When the mental game is not aligned properly, all your tangible skills will be rendered moot, or they will be underperforming, and you will be an underperformer or underachiever. This is why you are failing to sell. Tomorrow, we're going to go into point 3 of this, and just so you remember, you want to learn how to get that mental game in the right space so that all your tangible tools actually start working for you the way they're supposed to. And you want to learn how to sell yourself, putting yourself out there, even selling yourself just to get the opportunity to put yourself out there. What you should do is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com right now and join us so we can get working on making sure you show your game so you can get the ROI that you deserve. Work on your game. Dre all day.